Hi, and welcome to the Threshing Floor, where we seek to grow together through Christ centered conversation. This video is to start off the song series that we mentioned on our Facebook that we're doing for the Advent season. This will be the first in the Advent, in the days of Advent this year. We've got a couple of Facebook posts about kind of runners up on our song list a bit, and to kind of get into the mindset of what we're doing this year, where we're going through and doing these. You can get a full description from the first Facebook post that Angel put. This song is one that's very close to my heart. And we wanted to start off with this one because it kind of sets the mood for what this season really should bring out in us. And the song has been, it comes from a poem. It's Christmas Bells by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. And while it's not terribly long, it is longer than what most people would want in a song, and so it often gets, a couple of stanzas get dropped here and there in different versions of the song. But it does kind of lose some of its punch, some of its meaning when you start dropping stanzas like that, as most poems do when they're put to music and just made into a song. Everybody's got kind of their own version of it, and we're going to link kind of what's kind of our favorite version of it. It's the one that it uses all but one of the stanzas, and really retains a lot of the meaning to it, and the way that the artists, it's a duet, and it's the way that those two artists perform it together is really phenomenal. Anyway, the song is, the poem at least, is very dear because of when it was written and the history behind it. Not just the history of what's going on in the world at that time, but the personal history of the author, Longfellow, and the time in which he wrote it. So with it being the first one and with it being a poem, we felt that doing a kind of live read of the original poem, would be a good way to kind of start this off. So I'm going to be reading directly from it, but I did want to set some of the stage for it. So Henry Wadsworth Longfellow lived in the mid 1800s, and he was in his 50s at the start of he was in his 50s throughout the Civil War, and that's the world that he finds himself in. And just a few months after the Civil War began, his second wife, his first wife, died while he was overseas, actually teaching. But then his second wife, whom he loved dearly, he proposed to her a few times before she actually accepted the proposal. Frances Longfellow, she was working with wax sealing, something, like sealing an envelope with wax, in kind of a traditional way, and just a freak accident, and her dress caught fire, and he was there and did all he could to save her, and she ended up dying the next day, with him right there, and it really weighed heavily on him. He went through 2 years of just grief, and really had a hard time. And when he went into that, he didn't. Longfellow was a very published individual. He wrote a lot, And during these 2 years, he wrote nothing. Or
What
he
years-
at least
what
published
years were
nothing.
those?
This would be 1861 to 1863, basically, which is right in the middle of the Civil War, right? It ended in 1865. So right in the middle of the Civil War going on, his wife dies right at the beginning of it, and he's a poet. They're sensitive, for one. For two, you're watching brother fight brother. Anybody that knows the American Civil War it's American against American. Civil wars are just the worst.
Which is something that we can all relate to
Start
right
to
now
understand
with
right now.
the tension in our nation and
Yeah.
neighbor against neighbor.
But something for a Christian to keep in mind is at the end of this poem, that what we go through, we keep our eyes focused on Christ, and that's because he's true through it all, no matter what we get ourselves into. And so wanted to do a live read about that. And this poem was written. Sorry, that was the other point there. This poem was written in 1863, and it was one of the first things that he wrote. He did publish many things, but those were mostly works that were done before his wife's death. He published in 1863. And he wrote and published this poem in 1863 as he was coming out of that depression, as he was coming back to the world, really, and rejoining his family after a long time of real mourning. So it's a good poem. You'll get that as we go into it. And I will try to maintain composure as we go through it. It is one that, like I said, it hits deep for me. So anyway, yeah. So let's switch over. Christmas Bells by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, 1863. I heard the bells on Christmas Day their old familiar carols play, and wild and sweet the words repeat of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And thought how, as the day had come, the belfries of all Christendom had rolled along the unbroken song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Till ringing, singing on its way, the world revolved from night to day, a voice, a chime, a chant sublime of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then from each black accursed mouth the cannon thundered in the south, and with the sound the carols drowned of peace on earth, goodwill to men. It was as if an earthquake rent the hearthstones of a continent, and made forlorn the households born of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And in despair I bowed my head. There is no peace on earth, I said, for hate is strong and mocks the song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then pealed the bells more loud and deep. God is not dead, nor doth he sleep. The wrong shall fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth and goodwill to men. Amen, Mr. Longfellow. Amen.